Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness aye. Who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benscop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop, straight up from the root. Mark Benscop, who tell the truth? Mark Benscop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benscop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benscop.
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington Law Firm, located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. At 6 minutes after 9 o'clock, my name is Mark Benscop. We're going to rock and roll this evening. We have lots of things we're going to let you guys know. So do share the link. You know, we don't beg you guys to do that here at all. But if you can, we'd appreciate that. All right? Good evening to all of you beautiful folks in Guyana. We are told that there are lots of people in Kokwani who are watching us and who do listen to us. Good evening to you guys in Kokwani. Those folks in Ituni as well. Linden, good evening to all the folks, First Alley, Second Alley, Third Alley, Poker Street, right? Barnum Drive, all across Linden. Amelia's Ward. Speaking of, can Lemon get this photograph? Oh, what is happening here at Benscop Radio, man? Can somebody, look, we may have to look for a new operator. Lemon is gone from CNN. The other one is gone from Fox News. It looks as though we may have to send Lemon from 107.1 FM packing. Come on, can somebody talk to Lemon? All right, good evening. Let's start all over again. My name is Mark Benscop. It's 7 minutes after 9 o'clock. Let's get straight into business. We got lots of things we want to talk to you guys about. And you know, we carry the heavy punches. We don't hold back at all. If you're on the rope, we keep you on the rope. If we got to knock you out, we will knock you out. If you're on the ground and we see that you're making some sort of physical move to get back up, we are going to knock you back out. That is how we treat our ring. Sorry, I had to say it like that. I'm not. Some people say, Mark, you love to throw shades. No, the man who loves to throw shades at times, when you can pick him up, is Ganesh. And Ganesh is with us this evening. He is going to rock and roll. We have lots of questions to ask Ganesh. And mind you, just to let you guys know, just in the interest of transparency, Ganesh no longer owns any shares right here at Benscop Radio. He's appearing as a guest, just as a guest, nothing else. Before we get Ganesh is no stranger to you guys here on 107.1 FM. He's no stranger to you guys. He is a member of parliament. He is busy on the ground. He just made a trip to India, and then he passed through in your neck of the woods. If you guys are in New York, he just passed through there. He's a traveler. He's a traveling man. We will speak with him about that, his trip to India. And of course, Ganesh got back to Guyana with his phone. Well, we'll ask him that, right? Here is what I want to talk to you guys. Our operator has said that Ganesh is already the backstage, as we call it here. Backstage, he's in studio. Now, this is what the government is doing to you, the so-called regime in Guyana. Get your pens out, because this is going to tickle you. The installed PPP regime is violating people's rights in Guyana. They're spying on you guys. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. They're spying on politicians. They're spying on Ganesh. They're spying on all the members of parliament, the opposition members of parliament. You know, everyone. So if you are of interest, if you say something that they don't like, they're going to spy on you. Here's how they do it. They tap into your phones. They got GT&T to tap into your phones to do all manner of things. That's what they're doing. Before we bring the Honorable MP on, who's ready to rock and roll with you guys, and whilst we give you guys some more time to share the link, I don't know, why do we have to beg people? We already putting lash on Jack Deere. Jack Deere is already trembling. He's already trembling. And it's like every night, oh, share the link, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Come on, man. As my little daughter Emma would say, come on, man. All right. Good evening to you guys. Share the link. Just share the link so we can share the links. The more you share the link, the more they will see that we are sharing the links. Brenda Casey, have you shared the links? Well, not the links, the link, right? Take a quick look at this video and we'll bring our guest on. Shadow Minister of Local Government, Member of Parliament, Ganesh Mahipal is with us this evening. Take a quick look and you'll understand how they spy on you. The CCTV cameras, it's kind of like a circle around Guyana, Georgetown. You know, it goes from Timeri Airport all the way to the East Coast, then the East Bank, and then all across Georgetown, some hot spots like in front of Palm Court and so forth. And they have certain individuals who have access to this Android, Pro Android smartphone. It is the Huawei or whatever you want to pronounce it, EP821. And now this is the technical stuff. They can zoom in on you and see where you are, what you're doing, your license plates. They can trace it, facial recognition, you name it. That is what they do. But here is what the problem is. This device is in the hand. It is in the hands of some unscrupulous businessmen, so-called businessmen. So if you're coming down at the airport, these unscrupulous businessmen and people whose hands this device is in, they could zoom in and see every single thing. They could track you down. And if they have to eliminate you, you know what I mean by that, right? They will eliminate you. And that is why it's important. We need to ask, we need to find out what exactly it is that the Americans, what interest the Americans have in the permanent secretary. It is nothing easy. It is not like they just pull her in because she was carrying fudge or Polari or mitai or plantain chips or a box of condoms. Sorry about that. I had to add that in too, right? No, it's not. It is something high-tech. And for her to have been, along with others, mind you, maybe including the Minister of Home Affairs, are on a watch list. Now, the operative word there is maybe, mind you, maybe. It is up to them. They're not going to come out to say they're on a watch list. But what is so wrong with what Robeson Ben said? When asked whether his visa was revoked or not, he said it is trash. He's not answering directly, but he's saying then that America is not bed of roses. Guyana is. Dismiss the Americans just like that. Well, the Americans will dismiss him too. You'll hear about it very soon. Now, let's get quickly, and I must apologize to the Honorable MP who's waiting patiently. I just want to show you guys how they spy on you guys right now in Guyana and all of the information that they get. Facial recognition, you name it. Your phone conversations, your text messages, all of these things are being read. All. And some of these information is in the hands of questionable businessmen who themselves are on the watch list, the U.S. watch list. Some of them should have been extradited already. Let's go quickly to this little videotape so you get YouTube, so you can get a better understanding as to what is happening in Guyana.
Was originally meant to do. So trunking, or 3G or LTE or 4G trunking, is basically using a 4G or LTE network to communicate on a very secure corporate or government network. To put into perspective, how when you're communicating or you're sending data through a 4G network, it is your ISP or your data service provider that's doing all the, the switching, that's connecting you to other devices, and that's also handling the relaying of your data. However, when you're on trunk mode, or when you're in a trunk network, everything is encrypted. And the only thing that your data service provider or your 4G tower or 4G network will do is basically relay your encrypted transmissions to a central corporate or government server network or network controller. And it is that network controller that knows where to relay your data to, what device to relay your data to, and it's that network that will know what it is that you're sending, because that way no one outside your organization or outside your trunk network will know who you're talking to or know what you're talking about or what you're sending, what's the data you're sending, because everything in the trunk network is encrypted in a way that only people or the network controller inside the trunk network will know what's going on. So basically, trunk network mode is a ultra secure way to communicate via 3G or 4G or cellular, and that even something like the Russian military uses the Aerophone network. That's basically 4G LTE trunking, and yeah, they basically entrust that method of encrypting and trunking network enough to basically communicate super secret military secrets on through that method. So yeah, that's basically it. And unfortunately, I won't be able to demonstrate it here because in order to use trunk mode, I need to be part of a trunk network, which I, and in this phone, this either comes in the form of a corporate login, which I don't have, or a SIM card, or a special SIM card I insert into this phone. So yeah, all right.
All right, so there you got it. The PPP regime, they're about to set up a spy network. They call it intelligence agency, a spy network to spy on you, all of you, the citizens. And this is going to be a mistake because they are going to send some operatives over to the embassies. Like, for example, they may send one or two low-key ones to spy on Americans, to spy on Guyanese Americans, to spy on other Americans. And this is going to be, and mark this day, this is where the regime will find themselves in serious problems. Serious problems. They are basically out to spy on political operatives, their opponents. And this is going to be the end game for the PPP. I'll talk more about that later on. But for now, I want to bring someone who's no stranger. He, like Don Lemon and so forth, he was fired from 107.1 FM. He asked us to bring him back, so we decided to bring him back. He is with us this evening. He doesn't like when people say he's been fired, but he hasn't. He's a good friend of ours. Good evening to Mr. Ganesh Mahipal, Honorable MP.
Good evening, Mark. Thank you for having me on your program. And within the next 45 minutes or so, I promise to be very, very courteous, if I may put it that way, and answer all your questions.
Thank you so much. You do not get to decide. You're starting off on the wrong side. You do not get to decide the time that you spend.
We had an agreement. We had an agreement of 1 hour from 9 o'clock, right?
Absolutely. You always complain about the time. A song like Bertie Chancellor, you don't remember Bertie Chancellor from GBC. He was on the air and he would say, when it's time to time check, he said the time. All right. So tell us a little bit about, Honorable MP, your trip to India. What was that all about, sir?
Okay, well, let me say first of all that the government of India introduced a program called the Next Gen Democracy Network Program. And the Next Democracy Network Program is a program where India, the government of India, would invite persons from around the world who live and operate within democracies to come and witness their democracy. And we know that India is the longest and biggest democracy in the world. They're having 1.5 billion people, and the longest in the sense that they have had their democracy the longest. And it is a program that I applied for since last year, June. And I honestly forgot that I applied for it because I wasn't hearing back. But about a week before the trip began, I received an email saying that I was shortlisted and selected. The criteria required persons to be below the age of 35. So, for those who may not know, I am below the age of 35. And it also required us to satisfy some other criteria, which includes our academic qualification, which includes our involvement in leadership and management role in our respective democracies and so on. And on that basis, I was selected. And I must give thanks to the People's National Congress Reform for the opportunity, because my presence in that organization allowed me to get to see India and understand India's democracy to an extent, because the period I spent there was just around 2 weeks or so, and that wasn't enough to cast a judgment in terms of whether I agree that they're the best democracy around the world. But it was a program that really allowed me to get the opportunity to see how that democracy works, and in my own sense give me a sense of how I can compare the Guyana democracy. And honestly, I would say that what I've learned is that democracy is defined by each country in a separate manner and different ways. Because what I saw in India is definitely not what is existing in Guyana. And I would love for the India model to be replicated in our country. For example, just like how we have general elections and regional elections, and we have 10 administrative regions, you have a situation in which the opposition can win regions. And in Guyana case, the APNU AFC won regions 4, 7, and 10. If we are to juxtapose that to India, the state that I visited, or one of the states that I visited, is the state of Orissa. It is really spelled Odisha, and I think the name did change to Odisha, but the people there continue to call the state Orissa, which is in the eastern part of India, next to the Bay of Bengal. That state is run by the opposition force, so to speak. Opposition in the sense that it is not the political party that is in central government or in the federal government of India. And those people who live in the state of Orissa, they exercised their franchise to vote for a person of their choice or a political party of their choice. And that political party is managing the affairs of Orissa. And it is completely a different political party from what is managing the federal government or the central government. And they are not interfered with by central government. Central government doesn't put somebody there to impose rules and regulations, or put somebody there to basically go against the electorate. Those people manage their own affairs and they get to run their own business. And that is
And
not
that's
what
that
in the
that
Guyana.
sounds very, very nice indeed. 1.4 billion people. We'd expect all sort of experiments, and it's good that you've had that experience. You walk the streets of India, people probably walked up to you and say, "Aapke naam kya hai, bhai?"
But mind you, Mark, I'm seeing a comment there at the bottom that says that the person disagreed that India is not the best democracy. I don't know if I said best. If I said that, let me take it back. But
That,
India
that, that, that,
is
go ahead.
India, without a doubt, is the oldest democracy and largest democracy. Oldest in the sense that they have had democracy longer than any other country, and largest democracy in the sense that they have the most people in a democracy. But in terms of best, I don't agree with that either. I don't believe that they're the best. I don't believe Guyana is the best either. As I said, democracy is defined by those who are within the respective countries, and every country, I think, have their own definition for democracy.
Interpretation. Yeah. My hand itching me. I want to move away from India and go to Guyana because, hey, Honorable MP, I got my pen. I know when I sign for me, but in the PPP, when they sign for hundreds of others. They're forging people's signatures. I want us to touch on that, but before we touch on that, in India, what was the reception? The people saw you in the street, they say, Aapke naam kya hai bhai?
The people are hospitable. The people are very, very hospitable. I was treated really, really nice.
Do they recognize you? Do they recognize you as a foreigner? Because or do they accept you as an Indian?
Well, it will be difficult for me to answer that because the delegation comprised of persons from Bulgaria, from Belgium, from Brazil, from Portugal, from Croatia, from Mongolia, and those persons have different complexion from me. They're very, very milky white, if I may put it that way. So because I was among them, they understood that I'm a part of a foreign delegation. But maybe if I was there out on my own, they may have seen me as perhaps one of their lower caste because of my complexion. I'm very dark. And you know, the caste system in India is very strong. But I must say that because I was in the delegation of a number of other
special treatment.
I received somewhat, so I will say that I received some special treatment.
So did you be escorting the Hindi with the brothers and sisters in India?
I don't know. I don't know Hindi, but I endeavor to learn it though.
Kya hua, bhai? Kya hua? Kya hua?
I endeavor to learn it.
Kya hua? It means what? What happened? Kya hua? Right?
You got that from movies.
No. Don't underestimate me. I've been around longer than you, even though I look younger than you.
Most of those Indian movies, you hear that kya hua sentiment.
No. Kya hua tera wada vokasam from the movie. You know, the movie Kabhi Kabhi.
It was a wonderful trip though, Mark. It was a wonderful
trip. Well, not kya hua. Hum kisi ke kam nahi. But not only that, a lot of people in Guyana know Hindi, you know. Don't underestimate people. Nahi. Right? I have a lot of friends who are Indians. Actual Indians, mind you. So I tend to embrace people's cultures, their languages, and all these different things. So not just Indian movies. So don't put me in that category. Don't put me in that Charandas category. I noticed you brought back Charandas dog.
I was actually hoping to find the real dog. The real dog that cost.
Well, you should have looked around Guyana for that. Honorable MP Ganesh Mahipal is with us this evening. Lots of things happening. And I know by now you heard about this. You didn't get your phone seized or whatever. Let's get your opinion on the seizure of the permanent secretary's phone, please, and the way forward.
Let me say first of all that when I heard that the permanent secretary's phone was confiscated, it sparked a series of plugs in my head, and I wanted to really know what really went wrong there. And what is it that the permanent secretary really was involved in that could have caused such an action? Now, I don't believe the United States of America would do something like that without a reason. And it is a bit unfortunate that they are not willing to say what is the reason, perhaps because they're still doing more investigation and so on. But I think that the permanent secretary should come public and say directly what is it that transpired at the airport, because we are hearing a set of speculations. We're seeing things written in the media, but we are not hearing directly from her. And knowing that she is serving in such a high capacity in our country as the permanent secretary, the chief accounting officer for a ministry that is responsible for national and domestic security of our country, requires the people of Guyana to know what really transpired, what is it that she had in the phone, what kind of phone she had, and those kind of things. It's necessary for us to know. I think that that the U.S. will continue their investigation, definitely, but we in Guyana deserve to know what really transpired. And I think I'm going to take this opportunity to call on May Thomas, the Chief Accounting Officer and the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs, to come forward and speak to the people of Guyana, tell us what transpired, and she must know what caused the revocation of her visa and the treatment she received, because I am guided by media report that she traveled back to Guyana, a different route from what was booked in the first place, and there has to be a reason for that, and I would love to know what is the reason.
We all would love to know what the reason is. She's not going to tell her what's on the phone, obviously, but we can just assume that they were able to get information from her uh, emails and from text messages and from WhatsApp messages and so forth. And being the permanent secretary, you know the functions of the permanent secretary. Billions of dollars were giving out to individuals, so forth. And does it bother you though that the Mohammeds that received close to $2 billion of contracts are said to be not said to be they're very close friends of the permanent secretary and her husband?
I wanted to say this just now also. The fact that the U.S. allowed May Thomas to continue on her journey to China also raised some flags in my head. But her not returning through the U.S. spoke a lot, and the revocation of the visa also. I desist. May Thomas would have to appear if she continues to sit there as the permanent secretary. Mark, she would have to appear in front of a committee of which I am a member of, the Public Accounts Committee, to answer to the awarding of contracts and the accountability of the taxpayers' money that was allocated to her ministry. The contract I know you speak of is over $200+ million, and that sum of money had to be awarded by the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board, and not May Thomas per se, or at the ministerial board. It would have required the National Procurement and Tender Administration Board. So an award of that nature would involve bigger players, if I may term it that way, and it may very well be greater than just May Thomas. But the other issue I want to...
Now, before the other issue, and I get your point. I get your point with that, sir. But there was another contract for almost $700 million for the fire service headquarters. But
yeah, and that's what I'm saying to you. Those contracts, once they're within those amount of monies, it has to go through the national procurement
to make it appear as though there was transparency and it went through a democratic process, when in fact the procurement committee is as equally corrupt, in my opinion.
Yes, I agree.
But continue, sir.
I agree. The National Procurement and Tender Administration Board, as far as I'm concerned, is very corrupt, and they have they're trying to meander their way through the silence of the legislation and try to go through back doors and look for loopholes and so on in the awarding of contract. I don't disagree with all of that. The Auditor General has a mandate in this country to pick up all of those errors. The Public Procurement Commission has a mandate to also conduct investigations once complaints are laid. But until I see those reports and they come before us and the Permanent Secretary appear before us, I don't want to be prejudiced on the matter. But of course, it requires full scrutiny at the level of the Public Accounts Committee. But at the same time, Mark, let me also say that Guyanese are free in this democracy, as far as I know, to apply or to bid for contracts. And once they satisfy the criteria, execute, and within the bill of quantities and within the rules and regulations and within the specs, to deliver. I'm not taking that away from any Guyanese, but it requires the Auditor General to brief the Public Accounts Committee on what transpired. should there be an error in his view that he may have picked up during his audit.
Fair enough. Before we move on, though, there's a statement issued by the Shadow Minister of Home Affairs, Ms. Geeta Chandan, is out now with a statement. And the statement says here by the Shadow Minister, Geeta Chandan Edmund, MP, on the Permanent Secretary of Home Affairs matter. Embattled Home Affairs Permanent Secretary ought to proceed on leave. And she went on in that statement. Those of you, we will list it on our page shortly. But the Shadow Minister of Home Affairs, Ms. Geeta Chandan, glad that she's speaking out now. It's timely. But the Shadow Minister is saying that the Permanent Secretary should proceed on leave and there should be an investigation. I have seen others calling for her to resign, the Permanent Secretary to resign, that this issue is of national interest and she basically is putting the country at risk from a national security standpoint. Should she proceed on leave for an investigation to be conducted, an independent investigations, mind you, or should she, under the circumstances, resign? Your take, sir.
I think May Thomas needs to speak to the nation. And I'm not disagreeing with my colleague Geeta Chandan Edmonds' statement either. It is Geeta who shadows that ministry, and she may have more information than I do. And I'm sure, and knowing Geeta to be who the person she is, having legal background, served as a former magistrate and the likes, I'm sure that her pronouncement was well informed and her pronouncement was made with credible information. So I am going to agree with Geeta's statement, and she is a colleague of mine whom I'm sure knows directly what she is saying. But I do believe, in addition to that, and this is personal, and May Thomas should really speak to the nation and tell us what has transpired.
Absolutely. Well said, Ganesh Mahipal, Member of Parliament there. I will personally get back to this here. She needs to speak to law enforcement officers. In fact, Soku should have already questioned her. The nation, speaking to the nation to fancy things up is not necessary. She needs to talk to the relevant law enforcement agencies in Guyana now, albeit it'll be a farce. But Soku,
I don't disagree,
the head of Soku should have already questioned her. She should have already been sent packing. That's just my opinion, because I was told she has to answer this here now, whether they took money from her, whether she presented the correct amount that she was traveling with, and so forth and so on. And how much money was she traveling with? Was it 150,000 US, 200,000 US? We need to hear these things from her, mind you. You were about to say something, sir.
Yeah, I was about to say to you, I don't disagree that she needs to speak to Soko and the likes, but I do believe she needs to speak to the nation too, because I believe all 750,000 Guyanese really and truly want to know what really transpired there.
Absolutely, just like in the case with Sue, Jack Deere hasn't been speaking to the nation. Jack Deere needs to explain what has happened in terms of that high-level corruption allegations that we've been hearing about. Are you, Mr. MP, are you surprised that Jack Deere, one, has not been questioned by the police, and the fact that they have ignored as though Sue never said anything? How concerned are you about that, sir?
I'm very concerned, but I'm not surprised that Jack Deere was not questioned by the police, because the PPP has a track record of politicizing the Guyana Police Force and the other agencies that are responsible to uphold the Constitution. The PPP has that track record of politicizing these organizations. So I'm not surprised. I'm deeply concerned, however, and that is the problem with our democracy. We have a system in place where these people who are supposed to uphold the Constitution, these people who are supposed to function in these institutions and maintain its sanctity, maintain the sanctity of these organizations, the Guyana Police Force, the Guyana Defense Force, SOCU, and all the other organizations, they are supposed to not be creatures of the government of the day. They're supposed to be independent people with integrity, and they're supposed to uphold the rule of law, the Constitution. But we don't have that situation in Guyana. Unfortunately, what we have are people who are serving in these institutions, and they're basically being servants to the people in the government. Being of service to a government and being in service to the people in a government, that's two different things. I agree that the people of this country who are sitting as heads in respective institutions, they must serve the government. But when we say serve the government, what we mean is to serve the people of the country, because the government is really the people of the country. But when you are going to be specific to serve individuals who are holding offices within the government, and you're going to execute decisions and take instructions from individuals within the government, especially instructions that are unconstitutional, instructions that are dictatorial, and instructions that are political, it means that you have compromised your own integrity. You have compromised the sanctity of the institution to which you are the head of, and you have basically brought down the democracy of the land. And that is something that I'm very, very concerned about. And let me say this, Mark. When you look at America, for example, the institutions are strong. The institutions stand strong to the point where they can even put a charge to Donald Trump. They can do an investigation, and they can basically hold Donald Trump accountable for his actions. We don't have that kind of institutions here in Guyana because it's heavily politicized. And I want us as Guyanese, as lawmakers, to fix that. And that is why, Mark, if I may nip to this, the bill that we had in the House last night debating, the Planning and Development Single Window System, Bill number 22, Bill 2022, Bill 26 of 2022, it is a good bill in its content and context. It is a bill that will assist every Guyanese. But within the bill that the PPP crafted, there is the silence of protective measures for the very people the bill is intended to serve. For example, the amount of ministerial authority in the bill simply gives Colin Crowell, the Minister of Housing, authority to single-handedly basically decide who should engage in developmental projects. There is no guarantee and protection for the people of Guyana. And that's why we fought yesterday. We fought last night to get this bill to go to the Special Select Committee, and it's gone there. So we will deliberate more there.
We're not surprised.
The point I'm making is that we have to have strong institutions with heads of these institutions as credible people who have integrity and who is not willing to compromise.
Honorable MP, I agree with you 100%. But don't hold your breath, sir. It's not going to happen under this installed PPP regime.
Oh, I'm agreeing with you.
It's just not going to happen. And that is why they have to be voted out of office. Before we get into the forging of all these names on the PPP's list and so forth, what is your take, sir, on the what is your take on the fact that there's this intelligence agency spy network, so to speak? One, and also briefly, they're seeking 31 billion in supplementary funding for indigenous communities. 31 billion, Honorable MP. What's happening here, man?
All right, let me deal with the last one first, which is the 31 billion. I want to reserve my comments on that because only last night I got the supplemental paper and I didn't get the time to go through it in depth. So I want to reserve my comment on that for a subsequent program. My concern, however, is 3 months after or 4 months after the passage February, March, April, May. February, March, April, 2 months. 2 months after the passage of the largest budget ever in the country. And now you're coming for supplementary spending of 31 billion. And that supplementary spending is not just, they actually spent some from it already, because one is contingency and one is contingency, and I don't have the paper in front of me here, but I want to reserve my comments on that because I didn't get to examine the papers for it thoroughly as yet. And I don't want to make an uninformed pronouncement.
Fair enough. We appreciate that, sir. Next.
Thank you. And the first one you asked, the first question was concerning
the intelligence spy network.
I was reading this bill today. This bill is what took up my time today. That is why I didn't get to look at the 31 billion as yet. And I think that this is a frightening bill. I think it is a very, very frightening bill. Like, for example, if you notice, I was reading, I put a scratch here because this is a part that worries me, where they speak about the appointment of a director, and that the director shall have the authority, direction, and control over the agency, subject only to the president. The bill is frightening, this NISA bill, National Intelligence and Security Agency. But let me make this clear too, Mark. NISA has been in existence in this country since 2010. But it wasn't operationalized in the sense of having a law to give power. What NISA was basically doing in 2010 was working with the Guyana Police Force and the Guyana Defense Force for intelligence gathering and to basically keep the government informed as to...
But that was for intelligence gathering for criminal networks.
Yes, exactly.
Criminal network. Yeah, criminal network.
For criminal network. And it was doing well, I think, from 2010 onwards. But
no, you can't say it was doing well when most of the criminals got back into government. Or continue.
Okay. Fair enough. But let me explain what I mean when I say it was doing pretty well. What I mean is that it wasn't usurping the authority of the established Guyana Police Force and the established Guyana Defense Force. But when I read this bill and I look at it as to what the government is seeking to do, and that is to basically legitimize the National Intelligence and Security Agency. You know, there's a popular saying that the devil is in the details. The devil is in the details. And when you read this bill, you're definitely finding the devil. And you're finding the devil deep down in the details. And it requires greater study. It requires the MPs. I must say this. Yesterday, this bill was brought to our attention. And I don't want to give my mouth liberty, because what we as MPs would normally do before the sitting of a National Assembly and before we deliberate on bills and so on, we will all put our heads together and we will all examine it and give our opinion, and we come to a final conclusion as to our position as the APNU AFC. As it is right now, my position is that the bill is frightening and the bill requires greater clarity, it requires better clauses, and it requires more inclusivity of the parliamentary opposition in terms of how people are going to come into operation in terms of their employment and so on at the level of NISA. But it is without a doubt, as one of your comment there is, dictatorship and totalitarianism. I wouldn't doubt those things. But when we meet as MPs and we share our opinion on this bill and we have a final position, I will be happy to come back on your program and explain in greater details but I know for a fact that we are not in agreement of the bill right now.
You certainly you will be coming back on this program a lot with all these explanations indeed, but you guys couldn't possibly have heard about this bill only yesterday. In fact, I can show you the evidence. I've had in my possession that same document I've had in my possession since last week.
Mark,
Sir.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
Officially, I have to craft my words. You see, I can't make certain statements that you make, you know. Officially,
why not?
This bill was given to the members.
We elect you guys to speak on our behalf and to say anything, because the PPP don't craft their statements. You know, the MPs. And, 1 second, sir. You think Jack J and them craft their statement? They say anything. We want our MP to match these guys and do better than them. Say anything. Represent us.
I am saying to you, my brother, that officially I received this bill yesterday in the National Assembly when it was tabled for the first reading. That's what I will say to you. If any other MP, including myself, had it before, I don't know.
All right. I'm not saying any. I'm talking about me. I'm not an MP, but I've had.
No, I could only tell you from an MP perspective, right? Because I got it by virtue of being an MP.
We're not here to argue, and we would never. I would never argue with Ganesh because I would never win an argument with Ganesh. You don't stop.
Here now, I would love for you to share your source with me so I could get these bills earlier.
The last time that I shared something with the APNU AFC government, they ignored me. And it turned back to haunt them. I shared the information about Charandas 1 month before it happened. They went to Charandas and they asked Charandas, they said, Charan, why? You go vote against Abi? Charan said, nah, me would never do something like that. Me never do something like that. They allow that confidence push. I don't know.
Let me make this joke. Let me give your viewers this joke.
Sure.
A person.
Before you make the joke, let's make sure we put the joke signs up. But make a joke so all of us can make a laugh at the joke.
A person said to me, called me the other day, and he said, Ganesh, that one man bring down an entire government, and one stray dog bring he completely down.
Wait a minute. I kind of like that joke. It's a serious program, but I gotta laugh at a stray dog brought him.
Yeah, I found it very funny.
But look, I have more respect for that stray dog photograph that you took in India than I have for that stray dog that brought the regime down. That stray dog. He's more a stray dog than that actual dog. But Mr. Mahipal, some other issues, and let's stray away from this subject matter for now. In terms of corruption, all the corruption we're seeing all over again. Jack J got at this press conference and said that he tries to blame the PNC or the APNU coalition with no evidence. But we are finding a bunch of evidence of corruption and election rigging and all manner of things on the part of the PPP. You are the actual shadow minister of local government. Talk to us, please, sir.
All right. Let me say, first of all, that in any electoral process, if it is going to begin with fraud, then ultimately the end result will be a fraudulent result. The system of this local government election requires people who are going to submit themselves as candidates to be elected. They must enjoy the endorsement of at least 20 to 30 persons within the constituency to which they will run. And we on the APNU AFC have been unearthing, if that's a word, a number of fraudulent action by the People's Progressive Party, where persons whose names are reflecting as backers for the PPP candidates are claiming that they never signed or subjected themselves to sign for to back any PPP candidate in the findings. And that alone, Mark, is evidence that fraud has started at the very first step of the process. And it only means that if Claudette and G come, allows that to go through, that the entire election now becomes compromised. The entire elections will now be deemed fraudulent, because you cannot have that kind of practice from the outset. Now, let me make something very clear. Every time Jagdeo opens his mouth, and anybody from the PPP opens their mouth, they sound the bell that the APNU AFC are riggers, and the APNU AFC did XYZ and so on. but not a shred of evidence was ever produced to substantiate that claim. But the APNU AFC, on all accounts, where we deem the PPP to be fraudsters, where we deem the PPP to be fraudulent people and engage in fraudulent practice, we provided the evidence. We showed from the national recount that there were 61 dead voters who voted. We produced the death certificates and we showed that their names were ticked off, indicating that they voted. That's evidence, hard evidence. We showed that there were 49 ballot boxes without statutory documents. We showed that there were 1,278 missing oaths of identity, 4,864 absent voters, 150 stuffed ballot boxes. We produced those evidence. In 2018 local government elections, when we objected to the constituency in Wakenham, where the PPP had people who died as backers on signing as supporters, we produced that evidence. We showed the evidence to the world. Today we are showing evidence of people signing, and they're signing but they're not in the country. They said that they never signed. We show fraud, diswrongs, imposters. We showed that the signatures are not verified, they're not valid. These are credible evidence that the APNU AFC has produced to justify that the real riggers and fraudsters are the People's Progressive Party members. We produced that.
Absolutely.
I challenge the PPP to produce any evidence to justify that the AP and AFC are riggers. They cannot. They cannot, because the AP and UAFC have genuine support and a genuine support base that embraces them and endorses them. And in any free and fair elections, the AP and UAFC will win outright. There is no doubt about that. And I say that without any fear of contradiction.
Honorable MP, as was the case in 2020, 2015, 2006, when they cheated the AFC for that extra seat. In 2011, they got caught, and hence the country had a minority government. A minority government. Now, Sean Anthony Ben, good evening, sir. He's saying here, elections are rigged before they are held. And that is exactly what the PPP did in 2020. They rigged.
You would remember that they had, you would remember, Mark, they had that date, 29th of February 2020, when they had the results already out. And they didn't realize that the date was there. Listen,
things have gone from fraudulent, seriously, things have gone, Honorable MP, things have gone from fraudulent to Claudulent. Claudette is still there. How much of an impediment is she to free and fair elections, sir?
Oh, she is the greatest impediment, because every decision at GCOM comes down to Claudette. You have the composition of GCOM being 3 on the opposition, 3 on government, and then Claudette in the middle. So everything comes down to Claudette. And what has Claudette demonstrated so far? She has shown the world that she will always vote with the PPP. I don't know what is it that they promised her or what is it that they provided to her, but every instant that exists, Claudette has been voting with the PPP.
Every single time, with no shame, absolutely no shame. GCOM is one of the most corrupt agencies right now, and undemocratic agencies under Claudette Singh. Claudette Singh needs to speak out now, because people are upset. I hope, Honorable MP, that this protest that you guys had that you guys were part of today is not just a 1 day, hour and a half, 2 hour stuff.
Oh, you're asking me? I know.
I hope not.
I know that there are going to be other protests. That's the most I will say.
So they're not going back tomorrow. It's
I
done.
know that there are going to be other protest actions.
The people want to know. But let's give a clip here today what really transpired.
Oh, she's in court. All right. So here they are. Sounding their voices. We have Shadow Minister of Legal Affairs, Royce Delford, on the picket line this afternoon. Mr. MP, a lot of stuff happening. How are you going to be dealing with these matters legally for these elections? Fraud, impersonation.
Well, Andrew, what is actually happening here is another form of the protest. The court proceedings that we have instituted is form of the protest. The court proceedings that we have been filed are premised.
Come on, waiting. Yes.
The court proceedings that we have filed so far, based on the elections petition of the elections of 2020, are largely based on the fraudulent activities of the government and the fraud that has been permitted and encouraged by GCOM. The country has to understand that most and almost every single problem in relation to the elections and any elections in this country stands and falls at the feet of Claudette Singh.
All right, you've heard that there from the same thing that you've just echoed. Claudette Singh obviously is quiet. How much is this situation, the corruption, the forging of these signatures and so forth? We saw last night when the Counselor for Corriverton was on, Mr. Anil Sugrim. He showed these photographs of individuals who have had their names illegally placed and signed on the PPP's list that they had absolutely nothing to do with that at all. How much is it reminiscent to you about what transpired, the massive corruption on earth at the recount process?
Mark, when I saw all these people coming forward saying that they never participated in putting their signature to support any candidate of the PPP, I immediately remembered the recount. I immediately remembered all those anomalies, abnormalities, and irregularities. And it made me feel vindicated when I say that the PPP are the real riggers and the PPP are the real fraudsters in this country. Because every instance where we found anomalies, abnormalities, and irregularities, the credible evidence to support it pointed in the direction of the People's Progressive Party being the culprit. And here again, we have credible evidence to show that the People's Progressive Party are the culprit. An election fraud again. They started this local government election process out on the wrong foot. They started it by indulging in fraudulent practice. And the fact that it is started out as fraudulent, it will give us an end result as fraud in the end. I don't know what decision GCOM will take with reference to these candidates that don't have sufficient backers. But I must say that criminal charges should be laid against the people who have engaged in such practice. We cannot allow this to go. The persons who have submitted those lists with the fraudulent signatures, with the imposters, with the forged signatures, they should be held accountable and they should be made an example. We cannot tolerate this kind of behavior. And listen, for less than that, you know that there's an ongoing case in court with the Honorable Valda Lawrence and Carol Joseph over signatures. And Carol Joseph and Valda Lawrence's signature was not illegal. Their signature there wasn't something illegal. It was their signature. They said that their signature, but it wasn't done as though they did something wrong. They did nothing wrong and they were charged. Valda and Carol did nothing wrong and they were charged. Now you have people who have clearly done things wrong. Jack Bio himself went and apologized and told, I think it was a young lady, how he's sorry that her dead mother.
That is evidence, of course, but we cannot sit and expect the police to go after these fraudsters who have basically forged other people's signatures and charge them. We expect private criminal charges should be filed against them, or have these individuals go into the police to say, look, my signature or our signatures were forged. The police
Well,
has
that is
to do
happening,
something.
Mark.
They have to charge them.
Right now, I know that persons who are aggrieved by the situation, persons who feel as though their rights were violated by way of their signatures being forged, I know that they're making reports to the respective police stations within their constituency and regions. And I know that they will not just make these reports to just have it there in the police station. Those who are comfortable to go ahead
If the police doesn't want to charge, you guys have Roysdale Ford and other lawyers, I believe, within the coalition.
That option is on the table, but you have to allow the system that is currently in place to work. If it doesn't work,
the
then
system, with all due respect, Honorable MP, the system is not working in favor of you guys. You guys cannot sit and wait.
Listen to me. Mark, listen to me. I am not saying to you that private criminal charges will not be laid. It has to be laid. These people who are aggrieved by it, I am sure they want the persons who have done that to be held accountable and to be brought to justice. But you have to, even though you are saying, and even though I'm agreeing with you, that the police will not act, the police will not do what they have to do, the police will not go and get these people and charge them because the police are taking instructions from the People's Progressive Party. We know that. But we cannot make administrative mistakes and procedural mistakes by wanting to go file private criminal charges tomorrow and we haven't given the police sufficient time. There are administrative and procedural things that we have to follow, unfortunately.
I respectfully disagree. Private criminal charges and actual criminal charges have nothing to do with each other, mind you. And I understand, and with all due respect, one second, sir, I understand and I respect what you're saying. But if a private charge is instituted right now, we can't sit and wait for the system to work for us. The system is against us. The police, they're not going to go and charge. They are not going to go and charge. One second, please. They're not going to go and charge a RO for Corriverton. They're not going to charge a PPP connected RO and others who are responsible for those forged signatures. They're not going to charge them. We cannot allow a system to work and to give a system that is against us or against the people of Guyana. We cannot sit back and say, let us give the system time to see if it works. Let's agree to disagree with that.
You missed what I said. You missed it.
I probably did.
Yes, you missed it. I have gone to the police station today, and I have made a report that my name was placed on a list to support a PPP candidate, and I have never given that PPP candidate my signature to support him or her. I'm reporting to you at the police station that my name was forged, my signature was forged. The police took my report. The police will have to do their investigation, and they will have to call in whoever and what's not and what's not. That's procedural, and we know that it is not going to work. I agree with you. And whilst that is going on, I have decided to engage my lawyer. And my lawyer has advised that he will lay private criminal charges on my behalf if the police does not go in the direction of charging the person who has done so. I'm saying to you that it will happen. But it will happen on the advice of legal counsel from the APNU AFC, not from the advice of Ganesh and Mark, because none of us have legal backgrounds. We may have
speak for yourself. I'm a half-baked lawyer. What happened to my degree, 5 years of law school at Camp Street? Come on, speak for yourself. Speak for yourself.
But I know, Mark, I know that if the police fall short, and I expect them to fall short,
they will fall. They will.
Yes, I expect them
to fall short. They're not going to charge any PPP operative.
We will have to institute.
In fact, what they will do,
and
They
go
will
down the
cover
road of
up.
writing criminal charges.
The police will cover up for the PPP operatives. That's what they will do.
And we will have to do what we have to do.
And they will say that there's insufficient evidence. And then they will say that the file, they're going to prolong this thing. They're going to say that the file was sent to the DPP. The DPP going to send back and say there's nothing really there. And when you guys file private criminal charges, you know what the DPP going to say? She's going to withdraw all of the charges. So the system is a failure when it comes to operating in a democratic manner.
And that is why I said to you at the start of this program that every country defines democracy differently.
How comfortable or uncomfortable are you guys, or your opinion, heading into a local government elections with all these irregularities?
Very uncomfortable.
All of it majority of it coming from the PPP.
Very, very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. But we cannot not go into the elections because we do not want the PPP to take control of our constituency. We have to participate and hold to our constituency. The PPP cannot be allowed to believe that they can win Georgetown, New Amsterdam, Bartica, Linden, to name a few. There are other areas, Buxton, Fowles, Denhamstel, Hague, Blankenburg, Malgretoot, Meerzorgen, Toeflot, Potentia. There are countless areas that the people who are dedicated and committed to the APNU AFC are looking forward for us to stay and stick with them, as they will stay and stick with us. So even though we're very, very uncomfortable because of the system that is there right now, GCOM not even showing that they are proper and ready for local government election, we nonetheless have to stick with our people and follow their instructions, which is to participate. They have given us the assurance that they will vote for the coalition and the people who the coalition put up, the candidates who the coalition put up, and we are not scared to, with reference to the areas we are contesting. We know we will win all the areas we are contesting because the people have given us that assurance, and we know that everywhere we are contesting, we have valid and legitimate votes there and valid and legitimate signatures to back the people who have indicated that they will run as candidates.
A system that is rigged, a system that is so corrupt. Claudette Singh is quiet.
We're 10 minutes over the hour, right?
Pardon me?
We're 10 minutes over the hour. Thank you.
I'll throw this, because we believe in democracy. I'll throw this to our listeners. How many of you want Ganesh to stay on longer on 107.1 FM? He's saying that we are 10 minutes over to the hour. But while we're waiting for that poll, in Region 3, your region, sir, in 2020 elections, out of the 355 Region 3 ballot boxes were examined, and a total of 28 poll books were found missing. 28 poll books were found missing, a total of 7%. And when you do the math on that, is almost 5,000 votes. Corruption. Gosh. And yet the PPP and their supporters were arguing about opposition's SOPs. Your take. Talk to the PPP supporters.
Well, as I said to you earlier, there's no doubt, and I'm going to be repetitive here, there's no doubt that the People's Progressive Party are the real riggers and fraudsters. That has been proven in the 2020 election. It has been proven without a doubt that the PPP, they're squatting in office on fraudulent votes, borrowed robes. They are squatting there and they have to vacate the seats at the next election. It is as simple as that. We have established this. I can repeat it over and over. There were credible evidence to substantiate that the real riggers and fraudsters belong to the People's Progressive Party. All those irregularities, anomalies, abnormalities, whatever you want to call it, that was found in the national recount pointed in the direction of the PPP. And here we have again 2020 local government elections, forged signatures, points in the direction of the PPP. 2018, that constituency in Wakenham, the same Joan Ambedkar who is from Shortville, wrote a letter to GCOM in 2018 saying that I would like my name to be removed. I never placed my signature there to support the PPP. These things in the direction of the PPP.
A lot of people want you to stay. A few of them are saying let me allow you to drink your milk now.
I have a heavy born stomach.
That's okay, Honorable MP. But before we go, sir, in the interest of time, I want you to comment because we're seeing around Georgetown and Linden, people are just throwing these red T-shirts in gutters, in drains. They collect them. Some of them, they collect the 10,000, 5,000. Some of them have not been paid as yet. For example, Rastaman and them complaining all over to people that they were forced. They can't read and write. Rastaman, they said they can't read and write. They didn't know what T-shirt they were wearing. They thought the T-shirt said in front, made in China. All manner of things. But we're seeing these T-shirts all across the country. People get fed up and dash them away. Your take on some of these people who are dashing on the red T-shirts? We're hearing some of them have been forced, some of them have been paid, and some of them have been given a box of dal and rice or a box of cook-up. Your take, sir?
This is my personal opinion. This is my personal opinion. This is Ganesh Mahipal's opinion. If the PPP comes to anybody and say they're going to give you $20,000 and $30,000 and $40,000 to wear the T-shirt, take the money, put on the T-shirt, take the money, and then take off the T-shirt and dash it away in the drain and take a picture of it and advertise that you were paid to wear it and you have no interest in them. You did it for the money because time's hard in Guyana and you need to get an ease to cushion this heavy cost of living.
If the PPP walks up to you right now with 100,000 Guyana dollars in their hand and a half bottle Gramazone, and they said take 2 mouthfuls for 100,000, you gonna take it?
I wouldn't take it for no money from the PPP.
All right. Well, not even the red T-shirt they should be accepting.
But
continue. How much of because this is being used for propaganda purpose by the PPP.
Yeah, no, but Mark, we are not gullible. That's the point I'm making there, you know. Even though I said it in that fashion, understand what I'm saying. We are not gullible. Our people are educated. Our people understand what is happening. Our people know what is happening. These people are being paid, predominantly Afro-Guyanese, predominantly African Guyanese, are being paid to put on the T-shirt for the PPP to say that they're multi-ethnic and they're multiracial and that they believe that in a multicultural and those kind of things. People know that. People know that. Don't believe people don't know that.
So it's just for the optics. They're so just concerned.
When the Rastaman in the street puts on the T-shirt to accept the $20,000 or the $30,000, how much ever it is,
and pork chops,
it is because the Rastaman has to live and he has to eat and he has to provide. But I know the Rastaman would never vote for the PPP. I know the Rastaman would never support the PPP. I know that, and there are many other people in the coalition that knows that, and even in the PPP.
Except Leon Saul, not Leland Saul, the Rastaman, the so-called Rastaman that said, "Ay," right? Except him. But we got you for optics. That is what Jack Dave is using this day for. Before we go, I want you to get into the minds of these guys. Another propaganda video by the PPP. But we're making mockery of this whole situation. It's comical. Listen to this, please, here, and let's get your take before we wrap up tonight.
Yeah, this is the elite team. The root team. Strong team.
Number one.
PPP team. Yeah. You understand? PPP all the way.
Yeah,
one Guyana. Yes.
Go in the fort for Monday morning.
In any weather, rain, sun.
We are
in the night. We there right here. We ain't going nowhere. We holding it for PPP.
Right.
They're holding it. They're holding it, Honorable MP.
Well, I don't know if they got 20,000 or 30 or 100. I really don't know how much they got, but clearly from what they're saying, they were very desperate for even 5,000 to do all of that, right? So it's clear that they were very desperate. And you see, listen, Mark, it comes back to what I was telling you. You may want to say that they should not accept nothing from the PPP. They should not do those things because it's, and I don't disagree. Sometimes people has got to preserve the integrity and look beyond that. I am telling you, Mark, comfortably speaking, that I am not in a position to accept anything from the PPP because I will like to believe comfortably enough to take care of myself and my family at this point in time in my life. I am saying to you that the PPP has brought onto this country heavy cost of living. Everything is basically expensive, and there are real poor people out there. And if I am going to tell them don't accept something from the PPP in terms of $20,000 for just put on a t-shirt, I can't give them the $20,000. And the $20,000, they might need it to buy flour, sugar, and what's not, and so on, because of where our country is in terms of cost of living. So I wouldn't tell them don't do it, because I know the $20,000 could really come in handy to help them out.
And we're seeing the after.
And
we're seeing
more
the after,
than that,
the after
more
effect.
than that, the money is not there, the PPP money. It's taxpayers' money that they're sharing out. So if you're going to share out, you might as well give the poor people who deserve it and need it.
We are seeing the after effect. People are dashing these red t-shirts in the drains. They're
Exactly.
dashing them.
And that's why I'm saying to you, that's why I'm saying to you, Mark, that the people genuinely know that they will not vote for the PPP.
Absolutely. But y'all don't sleep, though. The PPP is attempting to rig the elections again with all those forgeries. All those forgeries. All of it. Y'all got to get on the case, get these people be charged, drag them before the court, tie them up in the court, get all the lawyers. The Honorable MP, Shadow Minister of Legal Affairs, Roysdale Ford, Senior Counsel, get him, get other lawyers. You guys got to fight back the PPP tooth and nail when it comes to these legal things. But before we go, I know we're way past our time, Honorable MP. What do you think of this? Before your mouth a little hot, you wanted to answer me back right away, right? Honorable MP, we get a little humor on our show as well, and no disrespect at all, and people already know that. But what is your take about this here, sir?
Are you confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way. I do not believe in, there's so much negative things in the newspapers. I will not sell my integrity for all the oil in Guyana.
Before you respond, she got to get her award, 107.1.
I don't know what.
Are you confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way. I do not believe in, there's so much negative things in the newspapers. I will not sell my integrity for all the oil in Guyana.
Lightning should just strike right now. Your take, Honorable MP.
I don't even know what to say. That was then. That was then, and clearly the road to now, we see something totally different. Claudette she tried a thing there, and in her batting, as she was coming down, and we are now at 2023, sorry, Claudette just swing.
Okay, look, we gotta play it back. Claudette,
I don't think Claudette realized that she is living in the era where recordings are done and they're kept for posterity, and they can always resurrect from the archives and play back to say you said this. And
exactly.
That's what
one more time, please. I have another question for you.
Are you confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way. I do not believe in, there's so much negative things in the newspapers. I will not sell my integrity for all the oil in Guyana.
Let me say this, Mark. When you look at Claudette then, and you look at Claudette now, you can only draw the conclusion that lies indeed make people uglier. Mark, you heard me there? I'm assuming you heard me.
Go ahead, repeat, sir. Sorry, your headpiece.
I said when you look at Claudette then and you look at Claudette now, you can draw the conclusion that indeed lies make people uglier.
I don't know. Our operator is trying to fix this whole audio situation. Go ahead, sir. We're hearing you now. Repeat, sir.
I said, Mark, that when you look at Claudette then and you look at Claudette now, you can't help but conclude that indeed lies make people uglier.
We hear you now loud and clear. We weren't hearing you the first 3 times. Trust me, we weren't. Before we go, sir, and we are going now. No, we're not going to talk back about the fact that this woman got to resign. Robeson-Ben has to say something, and so forth and so on. No, we're not going to talk about these 2 jokers right now. We'll talk about them tomorrow. And we'll talk about Anil allegedly is not agreeing to extradite certain folks. We saw that he met with law enforcement from the U.S. We don't know whether that information was shared back to criminal enterprise out in Guyana, corrupt and criminal businessmen. We don't know as yet, but we will get back to all of these things and more. This lady of no political value has spent, as she claims, 50 years with the PNC, and that New Amsterdam wasn't developed. For 23 years under the PPP killed and stagnated New Amsterdam. She was mayor of New Amsterdam and did absolutely nothing for the people of New Amsterdam. Almost all the people of New Amsterdam will tell you that she has been a failure. Lo and behold, not surprising to me, she's hugging and kissing up and chatting the PPP for little breadcrumbs. Your take on this is just for optics, in my opinion. What is your take, sir? This is Barbara Pilgrim.
It is for optics. I know Barbara Pilgrim very well. I had the honor of working with Barbara Pilgrim and many other distinguished people within the realms of being older than I am. And my only position on what I see there is that Barbara will come home back. She will come back.
Where? No, the door. No. The door got a lock.
No.
Let me ask you something. Forget about the politics. 1 second, sir. 1 second. When you throw a snake out your house, do you open the door to bring the snake back inside?
Mark,
and expect to not be bitten again?
Mark, my position is that our political party is not a party that shuts its doors on anyone. Whether what Barbara did there or I don't agree with what she did, she has to for reasons. I am not going to attempt to even justify why she shouldn't or should have. But what I will say to you is that our party is a party that will not shut its doors on anyone. And I know that everyone who has left will come back. And you know Charandas was never part of my party. Charandas was never a part of my party. And I'm speaking to people
Honorable MP, we gotta go. A snake is a snake.
Let me finish, please. Let me finish. I want you to hear why. I want you to hear me why.
These kind of snakes are dangerous snakes. Them is Lamar.
Hear why. Everybody that has left, and Barbara is not the only one. I can call many other names that have walked away because of their own selfish reason and because they did not get what they wanted. and they did not get positions, and they did not get to become MPs, and they did not get to sit in high offices. They have walked away for their selfish reasons. But you know why I know they will come back home? Because when they run from us and they go over to that other side, the People's Progressive Party, and they are being entertained for a couple of mornings for good pictures and so on, optics, and then when they're already being used by the PPP, abused by the PPP, and when they are refused by the PPP, they will realize that they were more valuable to where they came from, and they will come back home. Everyone who has left, I am telling you, they will come back home, because there is no other place that is sweeter than home. And sometimes you just got to leave them, let them go and stray. And when they stray, let them put up to all the difficulties.
Ganesh,
They realize how much
let's 1 second. We've got to go. Let's face reality. I've never disrespected you, and I don't want to disrespect you at all. But as you're speaking about this Barbara situation, coming back home and all them kind of things, yes, some people are allowed back, but they get some snakes. You can't bring them back. But as you're speaking there, guess what? For some reason, these guys come to mind. Please, I don't have you down like them at all, and I would never disrespect you. But these guys come to mind.
Yeah, this is the elite team, the root team, strong team,
Number one.
PPP team. Yeah.
Honorable MP, your closing remarks. We've got to go. It's been an interesting hour plus. Let's agree to disagree on some issues. Some snakes, you just can't let them back in. You just got to either leave them out at all. Leave them, because they'll return to contaminate. They're coming back with fleas, political fleas, and they're far more dangerous, some of them, when you open the door to bring them back in. Your closing remarks, please, sir.
I want to thank you for having me on the program. I don't believe that I was at my best tonight, and that's because I'm not feeling too well. I have a burnt stomach here that I have to address. But I always enjoy being on the Bench Cup program, 107.1 FM, and I want to thank you for having me, and I look forward to being here again to interact with you and your viewers. It is always a privilege, and what I enjoy the most here is the fact that I get to share my opinion. And even though we disagree, we sometimes agree to disagree, we know that we are firm in our conviction of understanding that the People's Progressive Party is the real fraudsters, the real riggers, and they have to go. They simply have to get out of office so that the coalition can return and bring and continue to bring the better life for all Guyanese.
Thank you so much, Honorable MP. Appreciate the fact I've seen some of your colleagues out there in the streets protesting. We want to see them more often out there.
I was there too.
We saw you. We saw you. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Take care. Good night to you and all your viewers.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, the Honorable MP there, Ganesh Mahipal. We appreciate the fact that oftentimes he comes here and we do whatever that is necessary. I don't have the recipe for burnt stomach and those sort of things. Sorry about that, Sean Ben. I don't have the recipe for that. Thank you so much. Lots of people agreeing that a snake is a snake. This is not to say that some people can't, when they get some snakes, you just don't let them back in. Charandas is one such. And Barbara Pilgrim is a disgrace. She has no support. And look, this is the math. You do the math. Barbara is about 88 years old. She's calculating within the next 2 years, by the time elections are held, she's about 90, 91 years old. She's probably hoping and praying. She wants the PPP to win to add another 5 years to her life so that she can make all the money that she never made. God never knows what she did. Stop it. Stop it. We got far better things to do, far better things to think about than a Barbara Pilgrim and the others, the team, whatever team, the team, and so forth. But I've got to go, man. I'll be back tomorrow. I want to talk a little more about this issue here. These things are so wrong. This woman has to resign. Ropes and Ben got to say something. The permanent secretary, that is, she's just got to go. She's got to go. We are not giving up on this issue. She has got to go. Even if the press in Guyana, they're asleep, she's got to go. Simple as that. She's got to go. And the other thing is, too, we have to hear from this lady, Claudette Singh. Are you listening? Maybe I should call Claudette Singh, seriously, and ask her what the heck is going on, to come out of your comfort zone, Claudette, and say something. The entire nation, they're looking at you. They don't trust you anymore.
And you're confident that you're going to deliver credible and fair elections?
Of course. Only one way I know, and that is the correct way. I do not believe in, there's so much negative things in the newspapers. I will not sell my integrity for all the oil in Guyana.
Claudette, I know better. Claudette Singh, I know better. The award for this evening goes to Claudette Singh. Claudette Singh should speak within the next 24 hours. She should speak. She should call a press conference. She should say something. We need to hear something from Claudette Singh. Something. And it better make sense. We need to hear something from Claudette Singh. Not Jack Deo, not Irfan Ali. Claudette Singh, you need to speak out. All right, I've got to go tomorrow. By the way, Carol Trimbagat, a friend of Barbara Pilgrim, what's going on? What's happening with these people? Carol Trimbagat? In the pond, out the pond, in the pond, back in the pond. We'll talk about these things and more tomorrow. But for now, we've got to go. We've got to go. And the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Home Affairs has got to say something that makes sense. We know the Fed's already onto her. Oops. I've got to go. Fed's on to probably a lot of those people in the PPP as well. And some unscrupulous businessmen, so-called businessmen. ExxonMobil has to stop doing business with all of these unscrupulous businessmen in Guyana. See you guys later. Until tomorrow, same place, same time. We'll be here with you in the morning. We'll be here. We're not letting up. We're not letting up at all. Have a good night's rest. Tata. Bye-bye.
So, this is attorney Shellen Washington, owner and founder of the Washington law firm located at 455 Utica Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. We're specialized in medical malpractice, personal injuries, matrimonial law, and landlord and tenant. If you're in need of legal representation, please give us a call today. The number to call is 718-877-3100. Consultation is free at no cost to you. So call us today to see if we can be of any assistance to your legal needs. Again, the phone number to call us is 718-877-3100.